than it looks like. Um, Director, welcome. We are the professional remodeling organization of the Mid-Atlantic, and we have members from the Philadelphia area to Richmond. Most of us are in the Metro DC area, and probably a third of them are Montgomery County contractors. And we are residential design build contractors primarily. So no commercial, no home building, just remodeling and high end and repair work. So welcome to us. And this is the first time we've formally met you. So if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, I'm sure everybody's dying to find out.
Well, thank you, David. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rabia Sabakan. I can't even say new director. It's 6 months now. So, but I'm taking over the helm, and just been a pleasure working with a great staff. You know, all the chiefs here and others alike, all in the effort of making the necessary improvements. That's really what it's all about. How can we, get continuous improvement for the department to make your lives easier? I mean, that's really, obviously, we're here as code regulators to ensure the safety. That's our mission first and foremost. But the underlying, responsibility is constantly, figuring out ways to be more efficient, to streamline process and do things better, make things better for you. Like I said, we want you to have success stories because that's really what's about. My background, I'm sure I've worked with quite a few of you. I'd like to think coming from the District of Columbia. Actually, I started in Richmond. I know you've got a lot of members looking at your website the other day. A lot of members in Richmond. That's where I my training grounds for 10 years or so. It's very, very great experience for me coming out of college with the city of Richmond. And then came to the district where I grew up. And it's just been a whirlwind. I mean, I really enjoyed the experience, the learning experience, and just the ability to apply, my skills and desires to, to connect really as a public official, to make the built environment a lot easier, a lot more efficient. I have an appreciation for design and construction, and becoming a code official or building official allowed me to, really apply that from our perspective. Because it's really one industry. So, we're really partners, and that's the concept that we're really promoting. We're not just regulators, we're partners. We're here to help facilitate, the investment that you and developers and owners, property owners alike are making in our communities. And so there's a nexus. We have to figure out a way to, to still strike that balance in terms of, codes and regulations, but also efficiency and we're promoting the concepts, developing a vision, looking ahead and not just kind of reacting, to things that come up from day to day. The best way to look at it is more proactively. How can we, as a department, a key department for the county, be forward thinking and develop concepts and ways to to work with you all, to make Montgomery County really, that's really the aim. How can we make Montgomery County the best place to do business? It takes a lot, and it's not just DPS. It's a synergy. It's going to involve all of the the county departments, but you all as well. We need to have that partnership with you all, so we're all on the same accord. We're coming up with a customer bill of rights just to kind of outline, your expectations, our responsibilities as a department, but also, your responsibilities to help ensure that these things happen, in the expected manner. We're developing the tools necessary, both internally with our permitting systems and technology, but also you as users, what are the best ways you can use these tools, whether it's, checking in on permitting status, submitting your documents, all those things. Like I said, it's a continuous improvement. We can't just come up with a few improvements and think we're done. It's an everyday thing. And Gail can attest to that. George, everybody, we're always looking at ways to make things better. So that's really what it's about. If there's anything to take away, as far as my principles, it's just, we want to do the basic things, but really customer service is the one key thing. That's always been a staple of mine. That's a pillar. How can we provide exceptional customer service? It just, to me, anything less is unacceptable. So that means being very responsive, not just the phone calls and emails, but I'm talking, responsiveness in terms of, our plan review timeframes, our inspections, performing timely inspections. And so, yes, we might be at a point where we're good, but, again, are there ways that we can kind of push the envelope a little more, a little higher, to make things even more efficient, more effective. We want to be regarded as the best place in the country to do permitting, and we won't rest until we get to that point. So I've said enough. I'm very happy to entertain questions. I'm sure you have a few. So I'll leave it at that.
Well, to follow through on the technology part of it and making things better, we recently had the interruption where Project Docs was down. Can you talk about that for a little bit about, what happened, but really what are the benefits that we're all reaping, and have you seen any of those benefits, and are we back on track as far as processing things?
Well, to be perfectly candid, it was a disruption that we did not anticipate. Ideally, things like that, you probably experienced them previously. It's a weekend thing, planned outage. It's all an attempt to, to look at the system and make the necessary tweaks. This one in particular, we're actually with Project Docs, it's migration of data. We're in the process of upgrading our system because it hadn't been done in anticipation, of moving to a different system, previously. So it was kind of this was delayed, and so that's what we're experiencing now. Again, it was never the intention to have a week's disruption, and all of us were affected by that. But sometimes, for the sake of progress, you have to, do things that you really don't want to do, but looking at things in the long term and the bigger picture. And we feel like we've got through that hurdle. We still have some more steps to take in order to get to that point, even with this current phase of the upgrade. But ultimately, you're going to see an enhanced product rather, that will be a lot easier to use, and so that's really the thing. We do apologize for the impacts. Again, we felt it too on our end, but we don't anticipate anything like that again. So, and we'll work with the vendor to make sure that that these are minimized. But again, the long-term plan is to have systems that that are state of the art, that are cutting edge. It's only appropriate that we do that. But sometimes in the course of that, you've got to, make small sacrifices to get to that point.
Do I understand that all the data is in the cloud now?
Migration to the cloud, yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, that seems like a very beneficial thing. Have you noticed that speeds have picked up, or are there any performance increases? Give us something to be happy about for the little bit of
I mean, I can
water under the bridge.
I can sit here and tell you promise you the world. I think our managers are more involved. They can tell you the performance wise. From what I've seen, it appears to be enhanced and better. But I think it's not something that you're going to see like immediate. In terms of really noticing. I think the long-term effects are more what you should be focusing on over the course of the next few months. So that's what I think you'll really be able to discern. The improvements with the upgrades. But if Gail wants to speak on the immediate stuff, from what I've seen, it's slightly better. But I'll let them speak to that.
Good afternoon. Our project doc system, and I've been involved with our project doc system since its inception in DPS a number of years ago. We have not done a major upgrade to our system in probably 3 or 4 years, and it was way past due. So the upgrade that we're engaged in now is actually in 3 phases. That was the first phase of it, was to move all of our data to the cloud. The second phase of it is to begin to upgrade the program itself, because we're on a system, a version of the program that's probably 3 or 4 versions behind. So we're going to do kind of a quantum leap to the latest version of the program. And in doing that, we're going to streamline some of our workflows. We're going to eliminate, when we put it in place 10, 12 years ago, we didn't know then what we know now. So we are going to streamline some of these workflows. We're going to combine some of the workflows, some of the steps in the workflows that we have determined are unnecessary. And it's really, why click through that, just move on. We're going to eliminate that. And we're going to move to the version of Project Docs that allows us a lot of flexibility. It allows us to roll back, for instance, or roll forward. It allows us to add reviews if something somehow gets missed. It allows us to go back and pick it up and pick it up within the workflow. None of those functionalities we have now. So it's in 3, as I said, it's going to be in 3 phases. We've just completed the first phase, which is just to move everything to the cloud. And now we're starting to look at what enhancements we need to make to our workflow. So you will see a big improvement. It's going to look different. And we have talked about reviving the training that we did so many years ago, to have people in so that everyone knows what it looks like, because it's going to look different. But I think you're going to find that it functions much, much better and much more intuitively, which is what we're looking for. So we're trying to make sure. The other thing that we're trying to do with our upgrades to our software is not just Project Docs. We're looking at upgrading our software and making sure that it's integrated now. We didn't integrate it before. And we did that deliberately, but now we know we need to be integrated, and we need to have one system that talks across many different programs and the customer access from one point.
When you say integration, do you mean with the permit application
Yes.
side of it?
Yes, absolutely.
So
So that you don't have to do, you're not logging in to apply in one program and then uploading in another program. All of that is seamless, or at least seamless to you. Behind the scenes, we may be looking at the separate programs, but they talk to each other, and they talk back and forth to each other. Because while our programs talk to each other now, the communication is only one way. So we want them to be able to talk back, so that you, the customer, would only have to integrate with or interact with one program, one account, and it would talk across all of these different programs.
In fact, David, right after this meeting, we have a demo with, I'll go ahead and say it, it's a seller. I believe this district still uses the seller who I had when I was at DCRA. And obviously they're integrated with Project Docs. So we want to be the most efficient, so that to ease things up for you.
Yeah.
So that's
Fairfax County just replaced, I believe they did their whole computer room over, and they shut their system down for over a week. We helped them get the word out way before that and help prepare our members. So as you make these improvements, we'll make the same offer to you, our newsletter, and anything else we can do to help prepare people for it, and then train them. Once you do implement it, would really be looking forward to helping you with that.
Absolutely, that would be very, very good to utilize.
We were in a call yesterday with the new director of the Department of Buildings, and during that call, we were talking about ideas to improve the flow of permitting processing. And one of the things that our contractors asked DC to do was to do the zoning evaluation first. And I think the same thing happens here in Montgomery County. If the zoning doesn't get approved, everything that follows after that is a waste of everybody's time. And, if we could even get to the point where we could open the permit maybe a little bit earlier, submit our work to zoning in a conceptual stage while we're still working on the structural drawings and some of the other details, but get that hurdle crossed sooner.
That's exactly how our workflow, if I can use that term kind of generically, that's exactly how our workflow works.
Mhm.
Plans go to, oops, sorry, my watch is talking. Workflows, projects go first to zoning and to well and septic, because there's still a significant number of properties on well and septic in Montgomery County. So those two things we decided early on can derail a project. If you can't get through zoning, if you can't make it work with your septic system or your well system, then those two things throw out the project. So instead of going through the building review and looking like maybe you could go forward when you can't, we do zoning and well and septic first. And if it does not pass those two bases, then it does not go on. So we already do that. I expect that we will continue to do that going
That
forward.
helps you guys not wasting any time, but it may not be helping us
Sure.
because we might have developed we would have developed the entire plan set by then.
Right.
And I know you guys offer a preliminary zoning review, right?
We offer preliminary design consultations, and you can say that you're concentrating on the zoning part of it. We offer those every day. So
Yeah.
that's available to you. So we do that.
Yeah. So, anytime I've got a tricky zoning project, I will do one of those meetings first. It still needs to translate when you go through the design into something. So just planting that seed. If there was some way we could get that zoning submitted earlier in our process, it would keep us from developing a whole plan set of drawings that could turn out to be wrong.
Sure, I've written that down.
Yeah, okay.
Well, David, help me understand, for what you're submitting, what precludes you from, what does preclude you from doing that currently? Or are you saying, as design build, you don't have the structural aspects, building aspects complete, and therefore you have to wait until all that's done just to submit to zoning, who would be the first discipline?
As I develop a plan set, I'm going to work on my architectural drawings first and my concept plans. And really, at that point, I've got everything zoning needs.
Okay.
Their review.
Because they don't need structural.
I haven't spent money on an engineer. I haven't gotten into mechanical work, all the other details that go behind it. And doing the consultation, there's no authority behind that. It's just a meeting and sharing of advice and rules. They haven't really looked at the design and said yes or no. So if there was some way that we could get a commitment on our project early on, and I don't whether the zoning's a little bit trickier in DC where this is more of an issue there. Most of the time, there's not much of a problem with zoning in Montgomery County. At least that's my
let me ask, are you still paying for those PDRMs in DC?
I think I did, yes.
Okay.
$100 or so.
Oh, okay. Well, they must have reduced it.
Yeah.
We'll entertain whatever, anything that you think if we're not currently doing, but you see some potential benefits, something that we should consider. We're always open to to looking at a process change if it's for the
other thing
interest.
that we talked about with them was a standardized cover sheet, and this would be mostly for your benefit. Thinking of residential remodeling projects, what would an ideal cover sheet look like? And if we could develop, and we've got a little working group playing around with that idea. But what are the things that you'd like to see on there? But that's something that we would share with each other to try to get it through your processing more effectively.
I mean, for residential, and George, you're on, I mean, the basic design criteria, depending on, if you're dealing with exterior work, it's pretty standard.
I cannot talk.
We hear you.
We hear you.
Oh, can you hear me? All right, okay. I have a problem like the audio's on the phone and I have the video here. Yeah, so it's a good idea and we try to do that, not for remodeling projects, but additions and houses. And there was a lot of resistance from the industry to provide that information. But yes, we can discuss and we can try and make it as simple and friendly as possible. Yes, again, we are all here to help you out, as you know, and we'll look at that. If the remodeling industry is with us, then that's fine. It's going to go through. But if we just push it ourselves, we used to do that. It was not welcome. So I think it's a good idea. Let's try.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess when you speak to strictly the cover sheet, I mean, we've got residential submittal requirements, if I'm not mistaken, that we kind of outline, the basics.
Yes,
Yeah.
we do, but
Go ahead.
We don't have a cover sheet, a standard cover sheet require them to tell us details and materials and specifications and code addition and all that. A lot of people found that very difficult to handle. So we get what we get and we make the best out of it. We just look for the information, and if it's there, it's fine. If not, we're asking for it. It's provided later on. Obviously, it's better to have a cover page. I'm just saying that in the past, we got a lot of resistance from applicants, homeowners, and so on, contractors, in submitting that cover sheet.
It could be voluntary. If you want to have your project processed quicker, then you provide this information. If you want to make people struggle, then you leave it off.
I mean, I see the benefits, having the consistency, the uniform.
Yeah. If I could give an example, I just submitted a plan and I had zoning information in one spot and I had my drainage information and my permit fee calculations in there, but I hadn't answered any of the questions about how much excavation was taking place. So for erosion, I forgot about them. So if we just had a list, and this could be part of the architectural submittal guidelines on the cover sheet, provide an accurate project description that tells about the existing structure and what you're going to do to it. In the district, that's a huge problem of people not being accurate with their project descriptions.
Yeah, and that will be fantastic. I'm sorry if it's just problems with my system here. So that will be fantastic, and we are all for it, except that, it's going to be your job is going to be structured in such a way that it will facilitate our review process and, completeness of information, and we will process it faster, obviously. It's just a matter of having people doing it, not particularly your industry and you in particular, Mr. Merrick, but that's where the problem is, because if we implement it and we want everybody to do it and it becomes mandatory, a lot of people will push back.
I'm not suggesting mandatory because
okay, well then
different. I'm just saying that if we understand what each of your agencies want to see,
okay,
then
we can have sessions like this again, by our group, residential group, zoning group, whatever, and we can provide you with that information. We have the submittal guidelines as well, so we can continue talking about this. Yes,
but I get where he's going with this. I mean, I think there's value to having some consistency with that cover sheet, you know, that gives you the code data. Overall, you know, from energy to, you know, structural, as well as the zoning parts of it. Never really, you know, it was never a requirement anywhere I've been, but if you have something in mind, you know, that we could potentially, you know, roll out, you know, and use as a template for cover sheets.
Well, you guys see a lot of plans cross your desk, so when you see a good one, you know,
Right.
pull it
Yeah,
aside.
yeah.
Maybe we get 3 or 4 of those together. And I know Case is interested in helping in this project. And
Yeah, that's fine. We can discuss, you know, the concept, because I guess we have one somewhere lying dormant. When we try to do it, we can reopen that. Yes, we can share whatever we need to. First of all, we gather the information internally, not just from my group, and see what we'd like to have on the cover page in order to facilitate the processing of the permits. It's a good idea.
Yeah. A closing subject. I pulled 3 permits last month, and I just noticed from the permit numbers, it seems like you guys have been going through an incredible volume of work. Is that true? How are you holding up? And you know, I've always thought that remodeling and construction was the primary indicator of a good economy. So if you're busy, that must mean things are really good.
No, I think you're accurate. I mean, that's gonna be most people's bread and butter, you know, alterations, both residential and commercial. Incredible might be a little bit of a stretch. You know, but I think there's, you know, I was asked the question earlier, you know, you're seeing things slowing down. You know, it's not, you know, while there might be comparatively to last year, there may, you know, yes, it's slower, but we're still fairly busy. So,
So you're handling everything well. Well, I think you guys are doing a fantastic job, and there are a couple other people on this call. Are there any other questions from the group?
by the way, tell Brian, you know, I said hello. He was director when I was, you know, at DGS.
Yeah, we had a good conversation with him, and I think they're starting to pay more attention to contractor licensing. And
Oh yeah, yeah. That was a challenge when I was there. Yes.
yeah. But we love seeing remodeling contractors and architects get into positions like that. So
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I understand.
thank you very much for all of you taking the time for this meeting. Really appreciate it. And this will get recorded and written up in our newsletter too. So,
Great. And we look forward to continue working with you, and, you know, feel free to reach out to me and any other leadership team for anything. We try to be as proactive as possible, but certainly if there are issues that arise, we want to be responsive.
yeah.
You know.
Well, George knows that I got his email.
My pleasure. My pleasure. It's always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure doing business with you and your organization.
Yeah, thank you.
We had good report for many, many years, and we will keep it going like that.
Great.
David, I have to do 2 shameless plugs before we adjourn.
Okay.
One, DPS launched this year a podcast that covers a variety of subjects, and we want people to download, to listen. We want people to submit questions. We would be very happy if you have a suggestion for a podcast or a suggestion for a guest for the podcast. To consider that, put that on our agenda. So we really do. And Sonia's putting in the link.
Yeah.
I think I beat her to the punch. She instructs me every meeting I go to that I have to remind people about it, and I have to put in a plug for it. So please listen. And most importantly, if you have ideas for topics or for discussions, please let us know, because we would be happy to entertain those topics, those items that you guys want to hear, that you want to learn more about, or that you want the public to learn more about?
You know, I can think of one immediately, and that's as I go into a home and I see something that I maybe know is not right, and it has nothing to do with what I'm being
Mhm.
asked to work on. But when I know when an inspector comes in, what am I going to do?
Right.
You know, what's my responsibility as a licensed contractor? And I take that very seriously, that you mentioned in the beginning, we were partners in this. And I very much have always felt myself to be as much of an enforcer as doing it right too. But just, we're the first set of eyes on a project.
Okay.
So that would be a good thing. And I'll give a shout out to Jeremy. I watched his video that he did on decks, and I thought
Oh,
that was
yeah.
great. And do more things like that. Next time, bring a contractor along and do a
We will
joint
consider
video.
that. We will consider that.
That's a great idea, David. And for your listeners out there who may not see the link, just remember the Montgomery County Department of Permitting Services podcast. It's on Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcast, you can find it. So just wanted to put that out there.
It's too bad the little fine print didn't pop up.
I have to mention also now that Gail and Sonia have made mention of some items. We will be having, and we would love to have you guys on board, a big stakeholders forum coming up. We haven't, had trouble with some of the dates, getting everything to line up, but we will reach out to you once we have that finalized in the next few days. It's basically, a big outreach session, letting you know what's
You learned
happening.
that from DCRA, huh?
We brought that, but it's a little different from what they're doing. I mean, I took it to Rockville. It was very effective. But the whole purpose really is to just communicate, the outreach, let you guys know what's happening. There's a lot happening. We got code changes in effect right now. By the way, we want to use you as a resource also once we finalize, particularly on the residential side, before we, submit. We want you guys to eyeball it and say, hey, here's some things that, just in case you see some things that might present some issues, just let's try to work those out before we submit it and it ends up being a public comment thing. We want to try to be proactive and work with you ahead of the game. So we have the code changes, but that's only part of what we'll be updating, in the stakeholders forum. And then the other part of the forum is really just getting the feedback, listening, and then next year we come back and say, hey, we listened to you guys and look what we did.
Yeah. We have a very effective newsletter. So yes, we would welcome that kind of.
Okay, great.
Share
You're
it.
reaching out.
Yeah, that's a good thing to do. Our members are generally, pretty sophisticated and wonder why you're so far behind in the code anyway. So you're not going to hear much pushback from our group on that.
Well, Maryland's typically ahead of everybody else. I know ahead of DC and Virginia. But we've got the 21 codes. The 24 codes are already being published. So, we're up on that. So we need to hurry up and get this out and adopted before we, start getting to that 2-year window, which we never want to get into a situation where it's like a 2-year cycle.
Are you as involved in the code process at ICC as you always have been, sending representatives? And
we do have some staff have active on committees, and not only ICC but NFPA as well, on the fire side. We're active at the state level, so
yeah.
It's good that we have people that are involved in the code change process.
Well, that's one of the things that makes this a great place to live and work, isn't it?
Yes, but we want to get the feedback from our stakeholders. I've learned that it's way better to collaborate in advance rather than, coming out and say, well, this is what it is. And then we find out, there's conflicts.
Yeah. Yeah. You've got our support. So.
Okay, great.
All right. Thank you very much for the time today. And I look forward to continuing the discussion.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.